It's Halloween, and here we are outside in Bishop, Georgia. We got
What do you attribute that to?
I think people are hungry for truth. Lies don't last long. I mean, they're like a sugar rush, but then people need something stable, and the truth is stable. Where we're watching this, we saw what Charlie, with his death,
Right.
you know, look, I knew Charlie well. Charlie would say, if my death brings about this, I would have lived my life purposefully. Charlie did that.
Yeah.
His sacrifice, we're sorry to see that happen, but the fruit of it is going to continue. Again, this is a great time. Kids are looking for truth, and we're going to give it to them.
I ask this question all the time, but do you believe the movement, Charlie Kirk movement, is actually gaining momentum?
It's gaining momentum, and it's branching out. There are more people over time talking about, who was this guy? What does he stand for? They're looking at his YouTube videos that are in the hundreds, if not thousands of hours, and they're basically studying right now logic and reason at the School of Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, it's amazing. Pastor, thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Well, coming up, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker accusing DHS of not actually coming after or going after criminals. Watch.
They're attacking peaceful neighborhoods and terrorizing kids in Halloween parades.
Plus, a man on TikTok apparently encouraging violence against ICE officers.
Why are y'all not knocking their heads off?
And later in the nightcap,
this case is a major push by the Trump administration to criminalize protest and punish anyone who speaks out against them.
a Gen Z influencer turned congressional candidate says the First Amendment gives her the right to block a law enforcement vehicle at an ICE facility that you're watching right there. Is she right? Or is the DOJ right with charging her with impeding an officer? Let us know. X, Instagram, at Trace Gallagher. Will read your responses coming up in the Nightcap.
Meet Teddy the Tiger, the once fearsome team mascot. But lately...
Hey, Teddy, you suck!
Turns out Teddy wasn't just tired. He had low testosterone. His energy and confidence sacked harder than a rookie quarterback. But then Teddy found RexMD testosterone treatment. Now Teddy is back. Better, bolder, faster.
What are you doing, bro?
Maybe a little too fast. Get RexMD treatment for testosterone, ED, hair loss, and more. Sign up now for a chance to win tickets to the big game.
38% of Americans don't get enough magnesium, which is vital for bone, nerve, and muscle health. I recommend Qunol's Magnesium Glycinate. It's formulated for high absorption and is gentle on the stomach. Qunol, the brand I trust.
I have to tell you, you're never going to do laundry the same way again. So say goodbye to 20 pounds of liquids, powders, and pods. And say hello to these. These are our new Clean Boss Laundry Smart Sheets, and they're literally going to change your life. Who wants to lug those jugs or use those messy powders and forget sticky, yucky pods? Clean Boss Sheets are soap and a softener all in one sheet with Castile soap and dual action enzymes that tackle tough stains. You just toss it in. They keep whites white and colors rich.
Weeks to create. Very nice. Yeah. Well, some news from Florida. Down to the Florida Keys we go for the Pet Masquerade. Bedtime Stories and Magical Monsters was the year's theme. Highlights include a Chihuahua dressed as Elvis, a pony named Elvis as the dragon from How to Train Your Dragon, and more. Charlie.
I don't know if we have time for this, but cops became cowboys in North Dakota when two cows escaped from their trailer and ran wild. Officers lacking proper equipment made a makeshift lasso and like a scene out of City Slickers. Luckily, the lasso...
Welcome to Jesse Waters Prime Time. We are live tonight from Phoenix, Arizona, where we've spent the day at Turning Point USA. We'll have more on that later. Trick or treat. Trump spent a week in Asia negotiating with the world, flew back on a red eye, and still had enough gas to hand out candy. If this were Joe, he'd be sleeping until Thanksgiving. But there's no sleeping at this White House. You can't even get a bit of shut-eye on Air Force One.
When you go on one of these 23-hour international trips with Donald Trump, if you're lucky, he'll sleep 2 hours. If you're unlucky, he'll be roaming around Air Force One, busting your chops because you've fallen asleep. You're like, oh, he's low energy. Look, he's already asleep and he's, been on the plane for 18 hours.
He wakes up the journalists for midnight gaggles.
He wakes up the journalists for midnight gaggles.
No one was sleeping on this trip back home. If the president didn't wake you up, the turbulence did.
These are rough winds in Asia. I must tell you, this is a rough flight. We could have waited an hour, maybe. It's a little tough. These are tough conditions for interviews. They're going to be watching Trump. They're going to say, he didn't look too good. He's got the shakes. I don't have the shakes, but people are going to think I do.
The flight was bumpy, but the sit-down with Xi, smooth sailing.
Overall, I guess on the scale up from 0 to 10, with 10 being the best, I would say the meeting was a 12.
Trump had the upper hand from the start. He made sure to win the body language battle at the first handshake.
And we're going to have a very successful meeting, I have no doubt. But he's a very tough negotiator. That's not good.
Trump never took his eyes off this chat-com. During the meeting, Xi kept looking down at his papers. 47, staring him straight in the eyes. Xi knows who deserves a prize.
Mr. President, you care a lot about world peace. And you are very enthusiastic about settling various regional hotspot issues.
China is calling Trump the peace president, but don't take it for granted. Just because 47 wants peace doesn't mean he's not prepared for war. Trump's making sure we're in tip-top shape. He's ordering the Department of War to start testing America's nuclear weapons for the first time in 30 years. And we're also helping South Korea build a nuclear-powered submarine. And we're doing it in the Philly shipyards. If China behaves, there's nothing to worry about. Trump would rather strike deals than targets. And he's leaving Asia with a China deal.
I put a 20% tariff on China because of the fentanyl coming in, which is it's a big tariff. And based on his statements today, I reduced it by 10%, so it's 10% instead of 20% effective immediately. I believe he's going to work very hard to stop the death that's coming in.
China's been promising to help us curb fentanyl for years, so we'll believe it when we see it. Trump told them, do the right thing, and if they know what's good for them, they will. Less fentanyl, more soybeans.
The Chinese have agreed to buy 12 million metric tons of soybeans during this season, and then for the next 3 years, they're going to be buying a minimum of 25 million metric tons per annum.
American farmers are thrilled, so are the taxpayers. No bailout. And it wasn't just soy. Xi wants a taste of American energy. Trump says the Chinese agreed to start buying oil and gas from Alaska. And the more China buys oil from us, the less they buy from Putin. China's also opening up their rare earths market to us, and in exchange, we're suspending tariffs on port fees. And overall tariffs on China will now be about 50%. This isn't meant to be a comprehensive deal. Trump's basically lowering the temperature. China's tough, and Trump is taking his time. It's why the president's going to China next year and inviting Xi to Mar-a-Lago. We're maintaining supremacy over the Chinese. So far, we still have the upper hand. Chuck Schumer, who can't cut a deal for his life, says Trump got rolled. Don't believe this BS. Trump folded on China. Folded? He's taming China, and we gave up nothing. Hakeem's a little jealous that Trump's giving other people attention.
Donald Trump has spent more time talking to Hamas and the Chinese Communist Party than he has in talking to Democrats on Capitol Hill to end the Trump shutdown.
Whose fault's that, Hips? Trump just came home with peace deals and trillions in new business. What have Dems done besides shut down the government? Fetterman's not mad. He's disappointed.
As a Democrat, I am incredibly, I've been disappointed, and I refuse to have a political gamble that's going to put those kinds of food security for 42 million Americans at risk on this. Now, some people might be afraid of the extreme left, but I am not one. I am not one of those Dems.
Maybe Democrats are mad that Trump was lavished with special gifts by all his new friends. The South Koreans literally drenched him in gold. Mr. President, can we offer you this beautiful golden necklace?
That is really beautiful. I'd like to wear it right now. Thank you so much. We'll cherish it.
It was a nice gesture, but Trump had his eyes on something else, the golden crown. And they asked, Mr. President, may we do the honor?
The Cheongnam Gold Crown symbolizes the divine connection between the authority of the heavens and sovereignty on earth. It symbolizes the spirit of Shilla, which brought peace to the Korean Peninsula for the first time, and the opening of the golden age of the Korea-U.S. alliance.
The divine connection between the heavens and sovereignty on earth. Wow. Are the South Koreans calling Trump the new Messiah? Not even Barry got a crown. And the South Koreans just gave this president a crown to a dynasty that goes back to the 1st century BC. Don't worry, Trump's not actually the king of South Korea. The crown's only a replica. Trump's just the king of America. Not our words. Pocahontas said it.
Donald Trump wants to politicize everything in America because he thinks he's the king in charge.
A king? Democrats say, yeah. And he's building a big, beautiful palace. And he's never going to leave.
I personally think that an infrastructure is being built to allow Donald Trump to stay in office indefinitely. I don't think that what's being done to the White House, you don't do that if you think that anybody else is going to inhabit this thing after you, and if you are planning on leaving power.
That man
You know who's really mad about Trump's big, beautiful ballroom? Maddow. She's fuming that her boss paid for it.
For every corporation, like our parent company for another hot minute, Comcast, that wants to pay for Trump to take a literal wrecking ball, an excavator to the White House. Those public-facing companies should know there's a cost.
What would happen to you if you told your boss that he's going to pay? I don't think you'd be clocking in the next day. Kamala's ballroom derangement syndrome is off the walls.
Are you kidding me? This guy wants to create a ballroom for his rich friends while completely turning a blind eye to the fact that babies are going to starve when the SNAP benefits end in just hours from now? Come on. So I'm not going to be distracted by, does the guy have a big hammer? What about those babies?
What about the babies?
Newsom says he's demolishing it if he becomes president.
The changes at the White House, the demolition of the East Wing, all the gold in the Oval Office, is all this going to, first of all, this is like a metaphor for how the stuff he is doing now.
Wrecking ball presidency.
Is going to outlast him.
Well,
is the next Democratic president going to get rid of that stuff?
I think they will. I hope they will. God forbid they don't.
Democrats just don't like nice things. All they want to do is throw the king in a gulag.
He will, be in violation of the Constitution, and he should be arrested if he attempts to do that.
Do you think he should be arrested if he attempts to have a third term in any way?
He's a violation of the Constitution of the United States, and he should be arrested.
Would he, though? Even CNN is saying there may be a chance.
The 22nd Amendment says no person shall be elected to president more than twice. But there's arguably a difference between elected and be the president or serve as president. So that gives rise to this theory. Maybe he'll run as the vice president and then the president will resign.
Well, someone needs to tell Trump because he still thinks he can.
I would say that if you read it, it's pretty clear. I'm not allowed to run. It's too bad.
Now, if Trump keeps this hot streak going, maybe he should run again. Every day he's king, it's more moolah in our pockets. Trump just came home with trillions of dollars in minerals, investments, and open markets, plus stronger military alliances against China and a more self-reliant America. No wonder 47's smiling.
We should smile because we had a great time. But I've been doing this for 5 days, so it's always a little bit tough. Is everybody happy?
I'm happy.
You having a good time?
U.S. Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick is here. All right, Mr. Secretary, you were there in the room with the Chinese. How did it all go down?
So,
well, the president is bringing respect to America everywhere in the world. I mean, you've never seen the respect the president gets on the world stage. It's the greatest thing to be with him. And then he brings home.
What happened to air traffic controllers? You know what happened, right? They're playing a game. Senator Schumer is now moving the goalposts, right? What's more sympathetic? Air traffic controllers are pretty sympathetic. Well, what's more sympathetic than they? Members of the military who protect our freedoms on food kitchen lines. Okay, what's more sympathetic than them? Poor kids who can't eat. Oh, okay, let's move the goalposts to that. We want a standalone bill only for food stamps. And the other ones can just go fuck themselves. You see, this is the game. Schumer's not wrong. They should be funding those things. But he's the one who shut down the government. Yes, Republicans are in control of all three houses. But we are in a shutdown right now because of what Democrats did in the Senate by using the filibuster where they got to get 60 votes to keep the continuing resolution from being passed. Look, the only fix, the real one, is to reopen the government. Now, here's the problem. Nobody ever ends a shutdown by getting what they want. It's never happened. Why? Because both sides know if you give them what they want, you're just going to keep having shutdowns. So what's the fix? What's the midterm winning move? Vote for me. I will fight for a bill and make a law that says no more shutdowns. And you create a period during which, yes, there's a constitutional demand that they pay Congress no matter what. They're not part of discretionary spending. But they can have their own house rules. And they should pay for every delay past a certain point where they don't pass a budget. If they have to use a CR instead of passing a budget, that's another fine. They are playing a game. If they wanted to pay and get people paid and take care of people, they wouldn't have shut down the government.
And we tried to do that 13 times. And you voted no 13 times. This isn't a political game. These are real people's lives that we're talking about. And you all just figured out 29 days in that, there might be some consequences. There are people who run out of money. Yeah, we're 29 days in. And they've done their best to make sure that a lot of these programs are funded. But at some point, the government runs out of money. 13 times people over here voted to fund SNAP. 13 times they voted to fund WIC. I aching back. Finally realized this thing has consequences. Well, you know what? What Democrats are doing here. They're making plans to keep the shutdown going.
And it's all for bragging rights. If you don't believe me, check this out right here. Because all they're trying to do is, I've seen a video just recently by Jasmine Crockett, and all she said was, say whatever you want to say about President Biden, but President Biden didn't have a shutdown. Well, that's because the Republicans actually played ball with Democrats. There was many times where there could have been a shutdown, but they all came together like adults and they voted for a clean CR. Same thing just now happened, but the only thing is, you all want to leverage the American people for your own good. Like Chris Cuomo was just now saying, Schumer is correct. Everybody should have benefits. Everybody should have aid. That's the whole reason why we put in, we pay our taxes so that people could be looked out for, so that all of America are straight. The thing is, you guys don't care about all of American citizens. You only care about Democrats. That's it. And you care about making Trump look bad. You don't care that people are missing meals. You don't care that they can't get to work because they don't have any money. You don't care about all the federal employees that's all the money that they have. They don't have a savings account and they're depending on their paychecks. You're trying to make a statement. You want this to be the longest government shutdown in American history. You want to make a statement. If you watch this right here, you can see clearly that they don't give a damn about us, man. They just care about making a statement. Check this out.
They know how to get rid of the filibuster when they want to. I am not telling them that they need to or whatever, but I'm just saying. Right now, they want to say, oh, it's the Democrats that are holding us down when, hell, we ain't been able to do much of anything, right? Because we don't have the numbers. But now they're like, oh, it's the Democrats' fault. It is not. It is not. I mean, you understand what the numbers are. You were supposed to be able to count. And part of counting is also making sure that you understand when you got to negotiate.
I'm sorry, what?
What?
Understanding that counting is a part of it. Having 60 people to vote for the bill, or having 60 votes to vote that the government shutdown ends, or that the continued resolution.
They blurring the lines.
Solution moves forward again is not what we're up against. You guys are being stubborn intentionally because you know that your pocketbooks and your bank account is not impacted. You don't care about people losing their jobs. You don't care about people missing meals. You don't care about all of the disdain that's being showed around the country for people who are not receiving their EBT and SNAPs benefits. Y'all don't care at all. As you can see in her snobby attitude, well, you should know how to count. I mean, who says that? Like, when are you ever going to take your job seriously, Slim? This is what Stephen A. Smith was talking about. This right here. Like, you can address the people and still make some sense without your petty ass digs. Like, this whole thing is not about what they plan on doing or what she plans on doing to help the situation. This whole thing is about the blame game. And I have to say, y'all are losing the blame game. The Democrats are completely losing the blame game. I'm gonna continue to play a little bit of this, but all of it is Trump did it. I mean, Biden didn't have a shutdown, but Trump did.
You don't have 60 in the Senate. That means you have to talk to the other side. Guess what? Joe Biden didn't have 60 in the Senate either. But guess what? He never had a government shutdown. So for all the talk about Joe Biden being senile, Joe Biden being incompetent, and all the other nonsense,
He was all of those things. He was all of those things. And just because you had Republicans that were willing to play ball so that they can keep the government open, I think that speaks more to the integrity and the character of the Republicans that were in office during the Biden administration than it does Trump's leadership right now, because everything you just now said about Biden is still true. It still remains the same. Also, the whole illegal immigration situation happened under Biden, and you guys played the same game that y'all are playing right now. Oh, it's not our fault. It's the border bill. The border bill is the only way to fix it. And then what happened when Trump took office? He fixed it immediately. He fixed it immediately. Guys, listen, and this is not me trying to say anything that's disrespectful or demeaning to Jasmine Crockett. This is me simply letting her know, and letting anybody that agrees with her know, that this chick is bat sugar honey iced tea crazy. She is. Just listen to what she's saying. For all the things you're saying about Biden, he never had. What? Do you care to look over the Biden administration again and see all of the stuff that happened that we wish didn't? As a matter of fact, I would have taken a government shutdown over that illegal immigration, millions of him bringing millions of immigrants here illegally and putting money in their pockets illegally. I would take that. I would take the government shutdown over that any day. But I'll let you continue because you think you're making a point.
Just want to remind y'all that in the last 4 years, you did not endure a shutdown. In fact, this is the shutdown president. That's the only thing that he is very accomplished at. And listen, nobody can beat him at it, okay? When you run the tape on him, this is what he does.
Okay, I'm done with her. The only thing she want to do is have one-liners. Your one-liners are dumb. He's the shutdown president. Okay, because that's all he do is shut stuff down. What? Yeah, he is the shutdown president. He shut down illegal immigration quick and pissed y'all the hell off. He shut down all of the BS that y'all had going on and started taking money out of your pockets by having Doge look into all of this frivolous spending that the government was doing, and you guys got pissed off. He's the president that got sugar honey iced tea done. Biden, not so much. It's not a flex to say that adults were being adults during Biden administration. The Republicans played ball. That's not a flex for the Democrats at all. At all. It speaks more to the people that was caring about the American people as a whole.
Who agree with me, but if you disagree with me, I would ask that you come to the front of the line, because we want to talk to people we agree with. We also want to hear from people we disagree with. It is hard for me to see because the spotlights are very bright, but whoever's in line, go ahead and ask your question. Oh, there we go. Okay, now I can see it. How you doing?
Hi, Mr. Vice President. Thank you so much for being here. My name's Lucy. And I'm Ellie, and we're with the Turning Point chapter for this question.
Thank you, guys.
Can you tell us how your faith helps you in your role as Vice President?
Well, I appreciate that. That is a very good question. And this is another way in which Charlie has affected my life. I would say that I grew up, again, in a generation where even if people had very deep personal faith, they didn't talk about their faith a whole lot. And I grew up in a country where you just didn't hear political leaders talk about their faith. But the reason why I try to be the best husband I can be, the best father I can be, the reason why I care so much about all the issues that we're going to talk about is because I believe that I've been placed in this position for a brief period of time to do the most amount of good for God and for the country that I love so much. And that's the most important way that my faith influences me, is we all get a limited opportunity to make a difference. And if you believe as we believe, you believe that God, you believe that Jesus Christ has a plan. And sometimes we don't understand that plan. By the way, one way I don't understand that plan is why my friend lost his life 6 weeks ago. Sometimes I get pissed off about that. But what I remind myself is that there is a deeper rhythm. that Jesus Christ is the author of the fate of human history, and we are charged to do everything that we can to effectuate that vision, to make our country a more virtuous place, a more prosperous place where people can raise a family and not be persecuted for their faith, but teach their children their faith. That recognition that all of us have a duty. And I have two very important duties as Vice President of the United States, to the American people and to God, and that's the most important influence my faith has on me. Thank you.
I understand your view on illegal immigration as it should be a top priority, strengthening our southern borders, and fighting the massive drug trafficking that's taken place while securing jobs for the working class Americans. Also, deporting every single person who's invaded our country illegally, which I 100% agree on. My question to you is, what is your view on legal immigration? Personally, I have a girlfriend who's studying in America off a visa. Our hope is eventually getting a green card. So what is your view on legal immigration? Should we reduce it? Also, what is your plan for a merit-based system?
Yes, sir. Well, I appreciate the question. And look, my honest view is that right now, America, thanks in part to the Biden border invasion, but also thanks in part to a lot of bad immigration policy, right now, we have let in too many immigrants into the United States of America. That is just a fundamental reality. Now, look, legal immigration is complicated because we let in about 1 million legal immigrants into the United States of America every single year. And I think the evidence is pretty clear that a lot of those immigrants are actually undercutting the wages of American workers. It's one of the reasons why the President of the United States, and a lot of us in the administration have encouraged H-1B reform. Because if you look at the H-1B visa, what it's supposed to be is that you have a super genius who's studying at an American university, who's working at a great company. You want that super genius to stay in the United States of America and not go somewhere else. What it's actually used to do is hire an accountant at a 50% discount to an American citizen. I don't think that we should be hiring accountants from foreign countries when we've got accountants right here in the United States that would love to work for a good wage. Now, you asked about, I think, your girlfriend, you said, and I obviously don't know the full details about your situation, but my view is, look, there are people who want to come to the United States of America, and some of them, I'm sure, can enrich the United States of America by coming here, but we have got to get our overall numbers way, way down. Too many people have come into the United States of America. I am married to the daughter of immigrants who came to the United States in the 1980s. I do believe that some immigrants, many immigrants do in fact enrich the United States of America, but here's the problem. We don't even know how many illegal aliens we have. We don't even know. The best guess is probably 25, 30 million people. I've heard estimates as high as 50 million. When something like that happens, you've got to allow your own society to cohere a little bit, to build a sense of common identity, for all the newcomers to assimilate, the ones who are going to stay, to assimilate into American culture. Until you do that, you've got to be careful about any additional immigration, in my view. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Hello, I have a question about Israel and Trump's policy towards it. Do you think it's a conflict of interest for Miriam Adelson, an Israeli donor, to give millions of dollars to his campaign and then Trump have pro-Israeli policies?
Well, if you're asking, do I think the President of the United States has a conflict of interest? No, I do not, because I know how the President of the United States makes his decisions and I see it behind the scenes. Now, as the President himself has said, Miriam Adelson, who, by the way, I know and I have a very good relationship with her, she is very clear about the fact. She doesn't hide the fact that she really loves Israel, and that is part of what motivates her political giving. That is a reality. At the same time, the President of the United States is America first through and through. Let me give you just a couple of examples of this. Number one, we have heard from some pro-Israel voices, some people who really love the state of Israel, that they don't want us to have a relationship with certain Middle Eastern countries. Well, the president, his attitude is, we need to build relationships with any country where we have shared interests, and he's going to do it if it's in the interest of the American people, and he's done exactly that. Number two, there were people, and I remember this criticism of the President of the United States, I just raised it in the context of a conversation that I had with Charlie. I remember when people said that the President of the United States was going to get us into a multi-100,000 troop regime change war for Israel. This was 4 months ago, this was 6 months ago. Now, the people who accused the President of the United States of wanting to get us into a regime change war for Israel, I wonder if they stepped back and said, you know what, we were wrong about that. Because the President of the United States did not want to get us into a regime change war for any other country. He wanted to knock out a nuclear facility and get everybody back home, and that's exactly what he did. So I understand there's some frustrations out there, but I think the President of the United States, more than any president of my lifetime, is willing to stand up to anybody if he thinks it puts the interests of the American people first. Thank you.
Hello, Vice President Vance.
How you doing?
Good. I have a question. Do you condone large private corporations such as Palantir hoarding data caches on U.S. citizens?
No, I don't condone it. And here's the thing. So I get asked about Palantir a lot because there's this internet meme out there that somehow I am super in bed with Palantir. And here's the thing that I'd say about this. Palantir is a private company. They sometimes do a useful service, and sometimes they're going to do things that we don't like. You should be demanding that your representatives do two things when it comes to Palantir or when it comes to any other technology company. Number one, protecting your data. What's going on with artificial intelligence is going to mean that there are massive inducements to steal your data, to harvest it, and to use it against you to sell digital advertisements. That is not what I believe in, and I've been fighting against it, whether it's Palantir or any other technology company, literally before I ran for office. When I ran for office, I was criticized by Republicans in my Republican Senate primary because I was talking then about Google and Facebook harvesting our data. It's unacceptable. I don't care who does it. I don't want them to do it. Number two, and this is also very important, what's going on with artificial intelligence, we got to be worried about large-scale surveillance, okay? Everything. You asked about Palantir. Do you know that every time you make a credit card transaction, the credit card companies are collecting data on how you spend your money? Do you know that every time you linger over a link on the internet for more than a half second, the search engines are collecting data on you so that they can sell you advertisements? One of the biggest questions for American policy over the next 10 years is how to ensure that you are a sovereign citizen. And you cannot be a sovereign citizen if any private corporation or any government can steal something from you that belongs to you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Vice President J.D. Vance, good evening.
Thank you.
My question is, the Republican Party, they stand for the right to bear arms. A lot of things the founding fathers really made a priority.
Sure.
And I feel as if requiring Christianity in public schools goes against the founding fathers' wish of freedom of religion. What do you think about that?
Well, I guess, who is saying that we require Christianity in public schools?
Just from what I've seen on the media and the news, it seems like the Trump administration had wanted to make praying in schools and Christian values incorporated.
Well, look, I think Christian values are a good thing, and I'll talk to you about why I think that's a good thing. But that's separate from forcing people to pray, which I don't think that anybody, certainly no Christian that I know, would ever support or ever endorse. And let me just say something generally about all the people. I see there's a big line, and I hope I can get to everybody's question. I remember when I was a sophomore in high school, I went to an event at my church, which was a book signing with Oliver North and Sean Hannity, the Fox News host. And this was back before, this was, I guess, 25 years ago. And so neither of these guys was maybe as big as they are today. And I remember standing in line and I'm about to say hello to Oliver North and Sean Hannity. And I remember thinking to myself, I was so nervous. All I need to do is shake their hand, give them a firm handshake and tell them my name. That's what I'm thinking. Firm handshake, tell them my name. Firm handshake, tell them my name. And I get to the front of the line and Sean Hannity looks at me and he says, "How are you doing?" And I totally panic and I go, JD. Because I had rehearsed shaking and saying my name. my point is, I admire your guys' courage, and please don't be nervous. If you need to work through a question, think about it, speak it. We're all here to have a nice conversation, and we're all supportive of it. Here's the thing when you talk about forcing, I'm going to answer your question, forcing Christianity, forcing people to pray. There's a liberal idea out there that I think is wrong, and that's that liberalism is the source of freedom of religion. And actually, if you go back to the original founding documents of the United States of America, if you go back to the Anglo legal tradition, well before there was ever a United States of America, what you find is that freedom of religion is actually a Christian concept. And the reason it's a Christian concept is very simple. Because Christianity, Imago Dei, the idea that we are all made in the image of our Creator, means that we must respect the free will of every single person. Now, part of that is you have a conversation with people. Having free will doesn't mean that you're not allowed to encourage somebody, that you're not allowed to talk to somebody about your faith, that you're not allowed to talk about certain values in school. When our founders talked about freedom of religion, they didn't mean you weren't allowed to say a Christian prayer in a public school or that you weren't allowed to talk about Jesus Christ in a public forum. They just meant that nobody could force you to profess the Christian faith. That had to come from your own free will. And I believe that, and I think every Christian who I've ever spoken to believes that the source is the Christian, the source of your faith. The Christian understanding must be your own free will. But here's the thing about Christian values. There are a lot of Christian values out there that I think that we've just sort of assumed and we've in fact taken for granted. Christian values are the idea that you should respect every single person as an individual, whatever the color of their skin, created in the image of God. That's a Christian concept. And in fact, it was a Christian empire, Great Britain, that abolished slavery to begin with. The idea that we should eliminate child sacrifice. What did the Christian settlers find when they came to the New World? They found a lot of civilizations that were murdering babies in weird religious rituals. It was Christianity that said we don't kill children just because they're somehow inconvenient to people. A lot of the things, human rights, the very idea that human beings have rights are a Christian concept. And so I'd ask you, my assumption based on the question is that you're skeptical of Christianity, or at least of certain public professions of Christianity. One of my favorite Bible verses is, "By your fruits ye shall know them." And I think that the fruits of the Christian faith are the most moral, the most just, and the most prosperous civilization in history. I make no apologies for believing that Christianity is the pathway to God. I make no apologies for thinking that Christian values are an important foundation of this country, but I'm not going to force you to believe in anything, because that's not what God wants, and that's not what I want either.
So,
go ahead.
For the school system, do you agree that there should be Christian implementation, or do you think that school system should be neutral and be focused on science, literature, reading, writing, arithmetic?
Well, I reject the idea that anything is purely neutral. Okay, there are, for example, let's take a basic scientific fact, and this is a little spicy. I'm not trying to make this too controversial, but take the basic scientific fact of, can you take a pill to change your biological gender? Okay, now that's something that 15 years ago, quite literally, every single scientist in the Western world would have said, absolutely not, that's crazy, and now people will. I think the premise of your question, I don't totally share it, because I don't think perfect neutrality is possible. What is it? You talk about history. Was Christopher Columbus a great explorer, or was he a guy who committed genocide against the native populations? These debates, I'm happy to have them, but I reject the idea that there are truly neutral debates. Anybody who's telling you their view is neutral likely has an agenda to sell you, and I'm at least honest about the fact that I think the Christian foundation of this country is a good thing. Next.
Okay, thank you. And for the pill you're talking about, what do you mean specifically? Are you talking about testosterone, estrogen?
Yeah, I'm talking about hormone replacement therapy. That's what I'm talking about. Just to be respectful, let's keep it going.
Yes, thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
Hello, Mr. Vice President. Thank you so much for giving this opportunity to talk here today. I did not agree with many of the things that you said right ahead of this, but I don't think that's my point to discuss here. What I want to ask is, you are married to a woman who is not Christian. In her Wikipedia, I mean, I just looked that up. I wanted to know what her faith was. I didn't know this before, but she still calls herself Hindu. You are raising three kids in cultural, racial, religious household. How are you maintaining, or how are you teaching your kids not to keep your religion ahead of their mother's religion? Or how are you teaching them that your kind, they're that kind who got here just few years or few decades ago is different or is better than your mom's kind who got here just a generation before? How are you balancing that? And when you talk about too many immigrants here, when did you guys decide that number? Why did you sell us a dream? You made us spend our youth, our wealth in this country and gave us a dream. You don't owe us anything. We have worked hard for it. Then how can you as a vice president stand there and say that we have too many of them now and we are going to take them out to people who are here rightfully so by paying the money that you guys asked us? You gave us the path, and now how can you stop it and tell us we don't belong here anymore? And one more thing, I'm sorry, one more thing. Do you have to
There's a lot there. I don't know if I'm going to remember all this, but I will try.
I'm sorry. I had to say all of this, and please take it with you. I mean, I'm saying all of this with
No, go ahead.
I
Please.
have no intention of causing a scene here or anything, but
We're not close to causing a scene, don't worry.
But we talked about Christianity, all of this. I'm not even Christian, and I'm here standing to show support. Why are we making Christianity one of the major things that you have to have in common to be one of you guys, to show that I love America just as you do? Why is that still a question? Why do I have to be a Christian?
Okay, so there was a lot there, and I'm going to try to respond to as much of it as I can. So on the question of immigration, so first of all, I can believe that we should have lower immigration levels, but if the United States passed a law and made a promise to somebody, the United States, of course, has to honor that promise. Nobody's talking about that. I'm talking about people who came in violation of the laws of the United States of America, and I'm talking about in the future reducing the number of people. Sorry, what?
Can I continue on that? Because when you just said you are not stopping with the people who came here legally, right? But you are pushing out policies that hurt us. And these policies are not even solving the problems. These policies are just creating chaos.
Ma'am. Okay, so again, I'm gonna finish answering the question, and then if I've answered all 9 of your questions in less than 15 minutes, then we can keep on going. We got to have a little fun, right? So here's the thing. I can believe that the United States should lower its levels of immigration in the future, while also respecting that there are people who have come here through lawful immigration pathways that have contributed to the country. But just because one person or 10 people or 100 people came in legally and contributed to the United States of America, does that mean that we're thereby committed to let in 1 million or 10 million or 100 million people a year in the future? No, that's not right. We cannot have, I'll go and finish. We cannot have an immigration policy where what was good for the country 50 or 60 years ago binds the country inevitably for the future. There's too many people who want to come to the United States of America, and my job as vice president is not to look out for the interests of the whole world, it's to look out for the people of the United States. Now, you asked a personal question about our interfaith household. And yes, my wife did not grow up Christian. I think it's fair to say that she grew up in a Hindu family, but not a particularly religious family in either direction. In fact, when I met my wife, we were both, I would consider myself an agnostic or an atheist, and that's what I think she would have considered herself as well. You know, everybody has to come to their own arrangement here. The way that we've come to our arrangement is she's my best friend. We talk to each other about this stuff. So we decided to raise our kids Christian. Our two oldest kids who go to school, they go to a Christian school. Our 8-year-old did his first communion about a year ago. That's the way that we have come to our arrangement. But, thank you. My 8-year-old was also very proud of his first communion. Thank you, guys. I'll tell him that Ole Miss wishes him the best. But I think everybody has to have this own conversation when you're in a marriage. I mean, it's true for friends of mine who are in Protestant and Catholic marriages, friends of mine who are in, atheist and Christian marriages. You just got to talk to the only advice I can give is you just got to talk to the person that God has put you with, and you've got to make those decisions as a family unit. For us, it works out. Now, most Sundays, Usha will come with me to church. As I've told her, and I've said publicly, and I'll say now in front of 10,000 of my closest friends, do I hope eventually that she is somehow moved by the same thing that I was moved in by church? Yeah, I honestly do wish that, because I believe in the Christian gospel, and I hope eventually my wife comes to see it the same way. But if she doesn't, then God says everybody has free will, and so that doesn't cause a problem for me. That's something you work out with your friends, with your family, with the person that you love. Again, one of the most important Christian principles is that you respect free will. Usha's closer to the priests who baptized me than maybe I am. They talk about this stuff. My attitude is you figure this stuff out as a family, and you trust in God to have a plan, and you try to follow it as best as you can. And that's what I try to do. I want to make a final point. So I don't want to cut you off. I want to be respectful to all the people behind you in line, but I want to make this point about immigration, okay? If you ask the question, what is the exact right number of immigrants for the United States to let in, it is just very specific on the context. If you go back to the 1920s, the United States passed an Immigration Reform Act that effectively cut down immigration to close to zero for 40 years in this country. And what happened over those 40 years? The many people who had come from many different foreign countries and different foreign cultures, they assimilated into American culture. And there was an expectation that they would assimilate into American culture. I think we have two problems in our immigration system today. My guess is you're probably a slightly more leftist political persuasion, liberal political persuasion, maybe not. But here's the thing. I remember back in my establishment GOP days, when I was still very early getting involved in Republican politics, I remember a conservative think tank person who told me that one of the reasons why immigration was really good is that if you had enough diversity in a country, people would mistrust each other and they wouldn't join labor unions. Okay? So when I see a lot of left-wing people who theoretically support organized labor saying we need to flood the country with a limitless number of immigrants, they're unwilling to set any limitations on it. My response to that is you are destroying the very social trust on which American freedom and prosperity was built. And that is really important to me. So the honest answer to your question, what is the exact number of immigrants America should accept in the future? Right now, the answer is far less than we've been accepting. We have got to become a common community again, and you can't do that when you have such high numbers of immigration, which is one of the reasons why we have the immigration policy we do. Thank you. Next.
Good evening, Vice President Vance. I just want to say it's an honor to actually be able to talk to you.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. One of my biggest questions is, I feel like one of the biggest problems that America is facing today is that ever-growing social political divide. And we're seeing this on the Republican and Democratic side. But we've seen that a refusal to cooperate with the other side has led to some major issues, including right now the government shutdown. And I wonder, as the party in power, what are your plans to address that issue towards, reaching that olive branch out to the other side to actually come to an agreement on how to go forward with our government?
Look, it's a very good question. And let me just say on the government shutdown in particular, The reality here is that there's a very simple bill that just reopens the government. It does it through pretty much the end of the year. That got every single Republican in the House of Representatives to support it. And then it got 52 Republicans in the Senate and 3 Democrats in the Senate to support it. But because of weird Senate procedural rules, it requires a 60-vote threshold. So on that issue in particular, when you have every single Republican with like 2 exceptions in both houses of Congress, I feel pretty confident. I know that I'm partisan. I know I have an R next to my name, but I feel pretty damn good saying the shutdown is the Democrats' fault because we voted again and again to open it. Now, but there's a broader question there, and I think most Americans, whatever their political persuasion, would actually like the country's political parties to work together better to solve the problems. And look, and I agree with that. And my approach when I was in the United States Senate was to try to find some issues where we could agree with the other side on and try to work with them on it. And like, let me give you one example. I really worry about concentration in the corporate sector. I worry about big corporate monopolies. I worry that when you have only 1 or 2 companies dominating an entire sector, it's bad for liberty and it's bad for prosperity. So you may be shocked to hear this, but I actually worked with Elizabeth Warren on some anti-monopoly stuff when I was in the United States Senate. But here's the problem. The problem is there is actually a lot of things where we can work across the aisle. There are a lot of President Trump is in my view, you haven't seen organized labor ever get behind a Republican at least in 100 years like they have behind Donald J. Trump. There are a lot of areas of common ground on that question. The problem is, as reasonable as some of these people can be in private, in public, the current obsession of the Democratic Party in leadership, I'm not saying every Democrat in the country, but the current obsession of every Democrat in Congress is get President Trump, fight President Trump, attack President Trump. It is impossible for us to work across the aisle unless a person is willing to put down their partisan sword, shut the hell up about fake scandals related to Donald Trump, and actually work with us. That's the way you make this happen. Next. Thank you. Thank you. Next. We're trying to get through as many as possible, guys. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Vice President.
Hello.
Hi. I actually drove here all the way from Memphis, Tennessee. Go Tigers. So, I'm sure everyone here is aware of the Memphis Safe Task Force that has been in the city for about a month now. And I checked a little earlier. As of this morning, I believe they've arrested 1,700 people and seized about 300 illegal guns. So I want to ask, how does this law enforcement objective jive with Attorney General Pam Bondi's pledge to make the Department of Justice a more pro-Second Amendment Department of Justice? Because I'm sure most people in here support the Second Amendment. So how can Republicans and this Department of Justice use the current gun laws that are on the books that a lot of pro-Second Amendment advocates disagree with, that we wanted to overturn in the big beautiful bill, but we didn't get it?
Yeah. So I understand the question. By the way, I supported some of those changes in the big beautiful bill. I know the President of the United States did too. We didn't have the votes to get them in there, and that's as simple as that. But I know exactly what you're talking about because there were a couple of issues in particular. I talked to some of my Second Amendment friends. But here's the basic issue. We don't want people who have violated the law, who have committed felonies. The Second Amendment, like every other amendment, it's about due process. It's that you don't have your rights violated unless there is due process of law. If you're a person who's committed 4 felonies and a court has lawfully ordered that you shouldn't have a gun and you're running around with a firearm, I don't have any problem with law enforcement saying you don't get to have that firearm that is illegally possessed, illegally obtained. I think that's basic law and order. Now, again, if you had somebody come in and say, well, we don't think that person should have a firearm, but they haven't violated any law, that's a totally separate question. That's not what we're focused on. What we're focused on is violent crime and people who have violated, the bodily autonomy of another human people. A person who has committed an act of violence against one of their fellow citizens, we're going to clean up the streets, get those people off the streets, and make America safe for the American citizens again. That is our entire law and order policy, and I think we're doing a pretty good job at it. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm a Christian man, and I'm just confused why that there's this notion that we might have owe Israel something, or that they're our greatest ally, or that we have to support this multi-hundred-billion-dollar foreign aid package to Israel to cover this, to quote Charlie Kirk, ethnic cleansing in Gaza. I'm just confused at why this idea has come around.
That disruption isn't Donald Trump's fault. Congress failed to pass, a funding bill under federal law. The USDA can't legally release money for SNAP without congressional approval. That means even if the Trump administration wanted to keep benefits flowing, they can't until Congress votes to fund the programs. Here's the story. It's the Democrat leadership in Congress that's refusing to give the votes needed to move the budget forward, using the shutdown as political leverage. Meanwhile, 42 million Americans, including nearly 25 million people in Illinois alone, are left wondering how they're going to feed their families. So this isn't about left versus right. It's about how Washington, D.C. dysfunctions keep hurting everyday Americans. Every time D.C. stalls, it's the poor, the working class, and single parents who suffer first. It's time to stop playing political games with people's lives and pass a clean funding bill, period.
Trump's plan to abolish the IRS has begun. This all started with a campaign promise that I'm not sure if any of us even believed. However, things are starting to take motion. There are some things that have already happened that I want to talk to you about. I